Madeleine's joining us from Toronto. Thrilled to have this show. We kind of always have the shows in May because it seems appropriate to kind of kick off
spring.
You know, especially in Calgary. Like, I don't know what it's like in Toronto, but you know,
Grim.
it's it's like dead grasses and dirty chip bags, and so it's like beautiful to kind of have this like color. So without further ado, I'll let Madeleine kind of take over, and I'll just get out of the way a little bit.
Thanks, Christine. Yeah, that was great. That was lovely. And I think I'll start with the title, Aftermath, and it's a little bit self-explanatory because I think we're on the other side of, you know, a huge monumental, cataclysmic kind of thing. Events, global, personal, collectively. So it felt appropriate when I was, you know, thinking very hard about, because there was this huge shift in what I've been doing. And it was appropriate, I think, to pick this type of word, even though it sounds like negative. When you look it up in the dictionary, there's actually similes that are very positive because it's like the aftermath of something. There's always a renewal,
Right,
and
exactly.
sort of a recalibration. And so that's where I wanted to start with this positive thing. And I started doing the palette, the color palette really altered a lot for me. So I started off with an extremely vibrant and fluorescent almost underpainting. And on top of that, I would draw or layer the paint, and it became this real push-pull situation. So I do sometimes start off with a still life, or in this case, I had bought a lot of milkweed last summer. I've been doing milkweed for a little bit, and they're pollinators, by the way. Without them, no butterflies, no bees and stuff. So I had this.
Similarly, you have that.
It's just kind of, you know, it's not what drives the work, but it was certainly.
It's there.
It was there. And before, if you know, like I've always done these very showy blooms.
Yeah, the peonies.
The peonies. They're kind of controlled and cultivated. And then moving towards the milkweed, looking at grasses, looking at weeds, looking at this very flowy plant. I love organic shapes. I think that's what it is for me. And I had all these out. I have a cottage place, and I had the milkweed out on the dock, and I go out there at nighttime, and you know, depending on the mood, you'd see this beautiful plant, really. And so that was the starting point, I guess, for this series. And then it kind of turned into a celestial element that I enjoyed, and just taking away and removing and adding. I have a tendency that we can go into here now.
Okay. Let's follow around.
Where do you want to be? I guess in here. Start. So I think the work has become very landscapey in a way, but like we were talking about before, it's not sort of the grand Canadian vista of the sky. They're very intimate peering into the grasses and what's underneath. And then the palette has shifted a lot. So I try to layer on top of it. And I have a tendency to get busy. So my attempt always is to calm everything down and find places where we can rest the eye and
I'm sorry, so with the talking, could you just hold off for like a few moments? This is very distracting. I'm sorry. I don't mean to verbally spank you, but it is distracting. Sorry, carry on with that.
So there's been two bodies of work that I've done, and one is the animal series. And I've done all kinds of animals, but I've always done a lot of birds. And the pigeons are appearing again. Yeah. So I like pigeons. They've been part of this bird hall show that I did 20 years ago. Maybe more than that, probably I'm lying. More like 25 or something. And I did big scale, you know, ostriches and later on swans and ducks. And I just had this, sorry, I need water, but thing for birds. And so the pigeons have been creeping back in. And if you notice, they're doing something kind of intimate. So it's about the cycle, it's about rebirth and, you know, regeneration, which is what the still life is about.
Right.
So I'm still working within the genre of the still life, but it's like memento mori, which is memory and, thank you, Lori. The memory and death, and that's what the history of that genre is. So, you know, those paintings have a strong narrative, usually, about the cycle of life.
Yeah.
And I just think we're moving into, hopefully, a phase of that.
Right.
We've been through a dark time, and yeah, so I think that's what this work is bursting out of.
I know, and it's
an optimism,
never
hopefully.
been dark. Well, you know, and that's funny because I think some of your earlier works were maybe darker, right, in mood and tone.
Yeah, moody.
Because they were kind of
Brooding.
more inspired by those, like, you know, those Dutch. I was just in Amsterdam, so seeing all those like Dutch still lifes, right, with the black backgrounds and
the void was in there.
Yeah, exactly. So seeing again this palette shift to these like incredible colors. And I love it because I was saying this to you too. It's like I didn't notice. I noticed birds in one of them, and then as I was putting them up, I'm like, oh, there's birds in this. Oh, there's a bird in this one. So it's like pigeons.
There may be more coming, but
Yes, and then there's like a woodpecker and a couple of them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a bit of a Where's Waldo. You can have fun kind of like playing with finding them. What else did I want to ask you about? I mean, certainly, yes, like, because you're very known for the peonies. Like, these, but I've seen, you know, now that there's like the milkweed, which I love. And is this like a dandelion?
This is a dandelion.
Like, I
so
love
it
it.
kind of snuck in there too because it's a survivor.
Yes.
It will grow. It has no, you know, limits.
Yes.
They'll just come up, and I think kind of that's the attraction to the pigeons. They're very, you know, they're not invasive, but they're determined.
Exactly.
They're ever there. And they don't care where they're doing it.
Yeah, it's true. They're like,
I was looking out the window of us, you know, recently in New York, and anyway, we're looking out the window, and there's this little thin wire, and they're like flopping over. I think that they were a very nice sort of metaphor for, like, let's carry on.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
Well, and so I love that, there are some very, I guess, like the new incarnations of the peonies, which of course are always like a favorite. Like I personally have a peony. I think she needed me to do that peony because I had pink peonies for my wedding. But I also just love seeing, kind of where it's going. And on the opposite, there are like a couple tulips and
well, I'm never going to abandon them.
I know.
Because I like them too much. I think I'm very attracted to organic shapes, and so I'm finding pattern within that. So I do start out maybe with a still life or a photo or something, but soon enough, like she was saying, you lose. I don't need it anymore, and I just want to live with what is going on on the surface. So it becomes creating patterns and abstractions and finding calm places and finding busy places. And, you know, organic, I guess.
Well, and I do also really love how the canvases and the works on Mylar, are, I mean, there's similar, but then also quite different too, right? Like there is, there is a lot more like negative space versus the canvases. I mean, there is negative space in them too, but they're certainly fuller. But
this is the canvas is building up with layers and then removing and adding. And with this paper is very fussy. Doesn't like to be overworked, and I've overworked a lot of them. I have a stack of ones that I got a collage or something like that.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
But they're very immediate and they're unforgiving, But I like to work with the mistake that is made, and then I try to recreate the mistake. So,
does anyone have any questions for Madeleine? At all? No?
I think your title Aftermath and my entanglement go together very well.
I think
they do, yes.
Yeah, what a natural pairing, right?
Yeah, no, I feel the shows, and I kind of knew when it was coming together, like it made a lot of sense to have both of you showing together, just because there's like, again, like some similarities, and then there's some real, but they are good companion shows, you know what I mean? Like the work looks really beautiful together. but is also, yeah, very complementary at the same time. So.
Oh, sorry, Christine. Is the fussiness of the paper one of the reasons why you end up with sort of more one or maybe two colors versus the canvas, or is it more just because it's a white background so it just stands out nicer?
Yeah, I think that they start off kind of like drawings, and I keep trying to I want to keep them as simple as possible, so I don't like to invade the negative space, although I have been doing that, but more lately. And also trying to do the negative, the reverse. So I've started doing that. But monochromatic works, I find that's where I lean when I'm on the mylar, on the paper.
We have had
Although I have done fussy ones with lots of
I
colors.
was just gonna say, we have had ones that are more accurate, where the leaves are green and the flowers are like what they are, but again, I do love that.
Well, I want to
kind of
suggest,
like
like,
these
it's not
silhouettes.
just a replicant, reproducing something that is there. It's not just a normal, it's, you know, it doesn't have the green foliage, it's something else. What, I don't know.
No, and I love that there's a sense of immediacy. Like I always tell people, it's like, I kind of picture in your studio with, you know, like kind of again, having a lot of them up at once
Yes.
and working very intuitively, like through them, like putting down a brush.
And there's many that don't make the cut.
Right,
Like
right.
there's many that have overboards or, you know, just, I actually have to be well dusted.
Right.
Or else I'm wasting paper.
Right.
And I don't like doing that.
Yes.
So, anyway.
Any other questions? I know,
Alright.
I'm a little like, anyway, you can, and I was gonna say, Gus.